Skylar pretended to be away on a business trip while secretly staying in a hotel behind my back. When he got promoted, he didn't tell me. He started buying all sorts of things he liked, then turned around and told me he hoped to make more money before getting married. At first, I thought he just needed some time to sort out his feelings. Now I realize he simply doesn't want to get married. Over the course of a year, I gradually rediscovered how comfortable it was to be on my own and began to feel that it was probably time for us to part ways. Only then did he finally notice something was wrong and try to keep me by proposing. I looked at the ring and smiled casually. Haven't you already gotten used to being alone? Skylar's face instantly turned pale. Chapter 1. After work. I deliver food orders. By the time I arrived at the hotel with the delivery, it was already past 6 in the evening. As I came out, I saw Skylar at the entrance. He was supposed to be on a business trip in Sea City, yet there he was, walking while talking on the phone, completely unaware of my presence. Seeing him actually made me happy. I circled behind him, planning to tap him on the shoulder, but he was completely absorbed in his call. Stop trying to convince me. I really don't want to go home. Work is exhausting enough already. Then I get home and have to help her wash vegetables and sit through conversations I'm not interested in. I have to constantly worry about whether I'm being attentive enough so I don't hurt her feelings. It's exhausting being the perfect boyfriend. Even buying something I like makes me worry she'll ask how much it cost. As if buying something expensive is some kind of crime. She wants me involved in everything, but honestly, I don't want to go on walks with her. She keeps saying that once we own a house, she definitely wants to get a cat, but I prefer dogs, and she happens to be afraid of them. And honestly, the food she cooks is way too bland. Our tastes don't match at all. I'm finally getting a chance to relax. So don't ruin the mood. He said so many things he had never said in front of me. I don't know what he said after he walked into the hotel. I just stood there stupidly, my hands and feet numb. Not once did he use the word dislike, yet every sentence was filled with it. Had he fallen out of love with me? Fueled by delayed anger and realization, I secretly kept tabs on him for 7 days. I never found another woman. Instead, I witnessed the pleasant routine of his everyday life. He went to work like clockwork. He ate breakfast at street stalls and had lunch at restaurants with coworkers. After work, he rode his bicycle to an arcade and played games. He had dinner with friends and chatted about anything and everything. After eating, he wandered through stores he liked. At night, he met up with cycling buddies for long rides. Sometimes he even visited technology exhibitions. There was no cheating. He simply wanted to be by himself. After calming down, I convinced myself that he was just under too much pressure. That was what I thought a year ago. But 1 year later, time proved that he simply didn't want to marry me. One weekend, while I was replacing a light bulb, Skylar unexpectedly came back early. He put down his luggage and hurried over to steady the ladder. Get down. I'll do it. I didn't respond and quickly secured the lampshade myself. If this had happened before, I would have instinctively asked him to handle little tasks like this. But now, I simply climbed down the ladder, flipped the circuit breaker back on, and tested the switch. The light shone steadily, just like my mood. I remembered him saying last month that he would return in early August. Now it was only July 26th. Why did you come back early? Whenever I had a question, I asked it directly. His sudden return felt strangely unfamiliar. It even felt a little intrusive, like relatives or friends showing up at my house without calling first. Regardless of whether I was home or not, he stared absent-mindedly at the illuminated light and answered my question with one of his own. When did you learn how to fix things? Chapter 2. I didn't think much of it. Everything comes with tutorials these days. I might not be good at complicated repairs, but replacing one is pretty simple. Back when I had just discovered how much he enjoyed being alone, I couldn't help checking up on him whenever I was delivering food. One time, I got distracted and nearly crashed into someone. Fortunately, the other person was fine. I was the one who ended up in the hospital. When my company learned that I would need more than 2 months off, they chose to fire me rather than keep me on, even after paying compensation. During that period, I stayed cooped up at home every day, bored out of my mind and unable to sleep through the night, scrolling through short videos, reading novels, playing games, and binge-watching dramas all became habits I picked up during that time. He didn't say anything and simply went inside to unpack. But before long, he hurried back out and asked with an ugly expression, "Where's the gift cabinet?" I had just returned the stepladder and was changing my shoes by the entrance. After a brief silence, I replied, "The cabinet was made of particle board. It wasn't very healthy, so I threw it away." That cabinet was one of the first things we bought after we got together. His confession had been unusual. He had given me a diary filled with the thoughts of his secret crush. The words inside carried all the passion and sincerity of his feelings for me. Without realizing it, I started placing all the gifts he gave me in that special cabinet. Over time, it became a habit. More than 30 gifts eventually filled the entire cabinet, making it impossible to miss. He visibly relaxed. "You packed away everything that was on it, right?" I nodded absent-mindedly. "What should we eat tonight?" "I don't really feel like cooking. Let's just order delivery." It looked as though he wanted to say something, but in the end he simply picked up his phone and ordered some food. I knew he wanted to cooperate with me the way he always had, but I genuinely didn't want someone criticizing the meals I carefully prepared, and there was no chance I was going out to eat with him. Delivery was the easiest option. "How many days are you staying this time?" I really didn't want to share the same roof with him. Without looking up from his phone, he answered with a smile in his voice. "What? Miss me already?" "About 10 days. Over the past year, he hadn't changed at all. If anything, he'd become even more immersed in his business trips, happily enjoying them while assuming I knew nothing. What he didn't know was that some time ago I had accepted a freelance project designing graphics for an event held by his company. One of his co-workers congratulated me and mentioned that he had been promoted. But before he left on that trip, I had asked whether his health could handle working so hard and told him not to push himself too much. He had replied that he wanted to earn more money before we got married. That was also when I learned that he wasn't staying in hotels at all. He had rented an apartment near the company. One of his co-workers had casually said, "I honestly thought you two had already broken up." That was the moment the blow finally woke me up. I stopped instinctively making excuses for him. Marriage had become nothing more than an excuse he used to brush me off, like dangling a carrot in front of a donkey, creating the illusion of happiness that always seemed just within reach. If a relationship between two people is like a balance scale, with one person standing on each side, then occasional imbalance isn't a big deal, as long as both people make up for it. Things can return to normal. That day, I was heartbroken. I turned around while standing on my side of the scale and realized I could no longer see him at all. He never said we were breaking up, but he also no longer placed me on the opposite side of his scale. I was no longer someone important to him. I turned on the projector to watch a drama and peeled an orange with my bare hands. "I heard you got promoted." The atmosphere in the room instantly stiffened. He gave a simple hum in response. "How did you find out?" "I was planning to save up some money and surprise you later." I had thought hearing his lies would hurt. Instead, I felt unexpectedly calm, watching a ridiculous scene on the screen. I chuckled. "Didn't I quit my job a year ago? A while back I took on a freelance project for your company. One of your co-workers congratulated me. The sweet promises he made about our future felt meaningless. That fake happiness shattered at the slightest touch. It made him look like a clumsy clown, wearing a mask of insincerity. He wasn't much different from the calculating co-workers I used to have. People are naturally biased. After building an intimate relationship with him, my subconscious had blurred many details and given him special treatment. Things that would have irritated me if someone else had done them. When he did them, I would instinctively overlook them. But now, it seemed I couldn't anymore. Chapter 3. A call from the delivery driver interrupted the conversation. At the dinner table, the two of us sat facing each other. He couldn't help complaining. Food from outside restaurants isn't always very clean. A while ago, I even ended up in the hospital with food poisoning. I tried to interpret what he meant. Was he looking for concern? Or was he hoping I would cook? No wonder he seemed reluctant to eat takeout today. So that was the reason. After thinking for a moment, I responded the same way I used to speak to coworkers I got along with on the surface but not in my heart, letting out a slight sigh. "What a shame. I'm leaving for a trip tomorrow." He looked surprised. "Where are you going?" After swallowing a mouthful of food, I replied, "I made plans with Judy to travel together. We finalized everything a few days ago." He seemed uncomfortable and immediately pressed further. "How long will you be gone?" I answered casually. A little over a month. Maybe it wasn't my imagination. His face grew paler and paler, his brows knitting tightly together. Our 7th anniversary is in 3 days. His gaze stayed fixed firmly on me. I met his eyes calmly. Judy is getting married next month. This is something we promised each other many years ago, a best friends trip 1 month before the wedding, to a place we've dreamed of visiting for a long time. We've celebrated plenty of anniversaries, but a pre-wedding trip like this may only happen once in her lifetime. He flattened his lips and sneered. So when it's a choice between love and friendship, you're choosing friendship? Every time we argued before, she told you to break up with me. I set down my chopsticks. Honestly, I regret not listening to her. He froze, looking as if he couldn't believe what he had heard. I thought I had already healed. Yet even now, talking about it made my eyes burn. I had to steady myself before continuing. I've always believed that whether a melon is sweet or not, you have to taste it yourself to know. As an outsider, she didn't understand how deeply I felt about you. In fact, you're the person I expected to spend my life with. I felt obligated to stand by your side. I defended you countless times in front of her. I was even upset because she didn't like you. Back then, she was heartbroken. She thought I'd lost my way and had been completely won over by you. But that wasn't it. During the pandemic, I was laid off. My office position was replaced by an intern earning less than I was. It was you who encouraged me to leave my comfort zone and improve myself. Even the freelance graphic design work I've been able to get was largely thanks to the opportunities connected to you. I've never regretted meeting you. It's just that I'm reserved. While you're ambitious and outgoing, I've never stood out much professionally. Either, I couldn't keep pace with you. We were never really suited to each other. I only regret not realizing that sooner. I hadn't realized sooner that he looked down on me. Judy had seen it long ago, but she couldn't bear to hurt me, so she never said it outright. Then, a year ago, after I quit because of my leg injury, I clearly saw the difficulty in his eyes. At the time, I thought it was financial pressure. That's why I started writing and looked for every possible way to contribute more. But even after I earned a decent amount, he was still unhappy. Maybe it was because I still couldn't walk the same path as him. Just like how he loved going cycling with other people, while I hated activities that left me drenched in sweat. What he disliked wasn't my ability. It was the fact that I couldn't charge forward with the same ambition and hunger that drove him. The chopstick slipped from Skylar's hand and clattered against the dishes with a sharp sound. He snapped back to reality and hurriedly picked them up. Staring at the table for a long time, he finally spoke in a dry voice. "It's my fault. We shouldn't make things so complicated. It's only 1 anniversary. We can celebrate it after you come back." The correction came out hurried and desperate, as though we still had a long future ahead of us. I had always been afraid of saying goodbye. Even knowing the relationship had reached its end, I couldn't bring myself to let go. Part of it was love, but part of it was also the years I had invested. I kept believing there was still something worth saving, that giving up would be too much of a waste. Not just 7 years of a relationship. Even 7 years at a job isn't something people can easily walk away from. I wasn't ashamed of my hesitation or my weakness. The year I gave him was also a year I gave myself. I'm full. I thought that after we broke up, he would probably live a happier life than he did now. The meal ended before either of us could continue. As usual, I went out for a walk. For some reason, Skylar followed me, even though he never liked walking, and even though I hadn't asked him to come. Along the way, most of the neighbors greeted me. "Who's that? I don't think I've seen him around before." After I finished petting a young neighbor's golden retriever, Skylar finally spoke. Following his gaze, I looked toward the young man walking away and smiled. "He just moved in. His name's Liam." Skylar grabbed my sleeve. "Aren't you afraid of dogs?" I nodded. I was bitten by a dog when I was little, so I've always been scared of them. But Toby is different. He's a very polite dog. Chapter 4. Skylar likes dogs. He thought that because I was afraid of dogs, we couldn't have one, so he kept compromising. That must have been exhausting for him. Fortunately, I didn't need him to solve that problem for me. I could overcome it myself. All it took was one well-mannered dog. I stepped forward and pulled my sleeve free from his grasp. "Don't you like dogs? You can get one in the future." I knew his attention wasn't really on the dog. What he really wanted to ask was who Liam was and why I seemed so familiar with him. Relationships between men and women often become overly sensitive topics. The next morning, I got up at 7. Skylar hadn't slept well. The moment I got out of bed, he noticed. The curtains were still closed. Sitting on the bed, he asked drowsily, "Why are you up so early? Isn't your flight this afternoon?" In a playful tone, I replied, "I'm going to Liam's place to cook." His sleepiness vanished instantly. His voice remained controlled, but only barely. "Luviana, what exactly do you mean by that? It's just cooking." What meaning could there be? After getting dressed, I headed toward the bathroom. I'm home alone a lot. It's safer when you're on good terms with your neighbors. Skylar clearly didn't agree. His face darkened, and he insisted on following me. For a moment, I genuinely worried Liam might get punched the second he opened the door. Fortunately, the one who greeted us wasn't Liam. It was Toby, the fluffy little dog, with his tongue hanging out and a huge grin on his face. Toby looked delighted to see us. Skylar's clenched fist loosened slightly. A woman named Zara waddled over, one hand resting on her slightly rounded belly. Standing beside Toby, she immediately began complaining dramatically. "Luviana, what am I supposed to do after you leave?" After rubbing Toby's head, I patted her shoulder reassuringly. "Your morning sickness is gone now. You'll be fine." Wearing an apron, Liam walked out of the kitchen. He casually wiped his hands on the apron and greeted us with a smile. "Come on in." Skylar sat down stiffly and awkwardly. Meanwhile, I naturally picked up an apron and headed into the kitchen to continue teaching Liam how to cook. Zara was the type who could become friends with anyone. She immediately started praising Skylar. People kept telling me Luviana's boyfriend was handsome. I didn't expect him to be this handsome. Then she explained, "I'm pregnant with twins. My morning sickness was terrible. Nothing tasted right. Every time I smelled the sweet olive flowers outside our apartment, I felt sick. After moving here, I kept smelling the food Luviana cooked, and it practically made me cry." My husband shamelessly came knocking on her door asking for help. Skylar's usual gift for conversation seemed to disappear completely. He sat there silently, listening as Zara described everything I had been doing while he wasn't around. "You're a lucky man." She smiled at him. "Having Luviana as your girlfriend means getting to eat her cooking every day. Not only is she a great cook, she's amazing at helping people take care of their health. Just look at me. A month ago, my face was so pale and greenish I could have played a corpse without makeup." "Liam!" Liam immediately protested. Zara instantly covered her mouth. Okay. Spit. Spit. Spit." No bad luck. After another round of busy work, the food was finally served. Some dishes were light and mild. Others were rich and heavily seasoned. Despite her energetic personality, Zara actually preferred mild flavors. Liam, who was calm and steady by nature, couldn't live without spicy food. Over the past year, I had questioned myself many times. Had I been the one holding Skylar back? Was he constantly carrying the weight of our relationship because I couldn't keep up with him? Was that why he felt so burdened? Then I met this couple, and suddenly, I understood something. Different tastes don't stop two people from loving each other. If one person doesn't like cilantro, you simply set aside a portion before adding cilantro to the rest. It's nothing more than using one extra plate. Chapter 5. If Skylar didn't like eating lightly seasoned food, he could have just told me. He's highly capable, but I'm not incapable either. We're simply good at different things. That said, our habits really are quite different. I grew up watching my parents help each other with everything. Whenever something needed doing, they would naturally lend a hand. Because of that, I could never understand Skylar's attitude of not wanting to do anything after coming home from work. The things he didn't like doing, did I somehow love doing them? If he was tired after work, wasn't I tired after work too? And I never agreed with his belief that we could just eat out all the time. In the South, the humidity makes mold grow easily, and sometimes, the moment you turn on a light, dozens of cockroaches scatter in every direction. It's terrifying. At least in your own kitchen, you can clean and maintain things properly. So his stress wasn't something I created. It came from the image of the perfect boyfriend he forced himself to maintain. He kept acting against his own preferences and habits. And now, he simply couldn't keep it up anymore. After lunch, I wheeled my suitcase outside. He was leaning against the balcony railing, smoking. The moment he saw me, he forced a smile. "Come back soon." Hope lingered in his eyes, yet he couldn't bring himself to say what he really wanted. He wouldn't address the problem. He didn't dare solve it. Instead, he tried to pretend everything was fine, believing there was still plenty of time. From beginning to end, he never thought I might leave and never come back. After Judy picked me up, she looked me over from head to toe. "You've changed so much. Did Skylar do something to you?" I pulled her away from the flow of people exiting the airport. "No, you're exaggerating. I'm a grown woman. How would I let someone bully me?" She didn't respond. Instead, she led me to the car, rummaged through her bag, and handed me a small mirror. Under my confused stare, she finally spoke. "You've never really been cheerful, but you've always had this innocent, slightly clueless way about you. You didn't have this detached maturity, even though I never liked Skylar. I could tell you genuinely loved him." I was stunned for a long moment before laughing softly. "I'm in my 30s, not my 20s anymore. Maturity is just part of getting older." She looked anxious. "No, it's different. It's like your spirit has been drained out of you." I found that amusing. "So I look like someone recovering from a serious illness?" She looked at me with concern. "The main reason I never liked him was because you always loved sharing things you cared about. Whether it was people, hobbies, or little moments, you talked about them all the time. But in all those years, you never once mentioned any of his friends. If someone truly loves you, they'll introduce you to their friends. There's no way they wouldn't. So if you never talked about them, then the most likely explanation is that his friends weren't very friendly toward you." A realization suddenly struck me. No wonder Judy had always refused to explain exactly why she disliked Skylar. They never openly acted like they liked me or disliked me. It was more like, I struggled for words. "I don't know how to explain it." Judy immediately cut off my attempt to make excuses for him. "That's exactly the problem. If you couldn't fit into his social circle, there's a very good chance it's because they constantly heard Skylar complain about you. Their first impression of you was already negative. That's why there was always a barrier between you and them. And that's why you never became part of their circle." Her words hit me like a bolt of lightning. In an instant, I was transported back to that night delivering food. Who had Skylar been talking to on the phone? Why had he spoken so naturally about all the things he disliked about me? The answer could only be one thing: a friend. I blinked. My mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. Unable to argue, I instinctively looked away and avoided Judy's gaze. The mirror in my hand slowly blurred. Judy wrapped an arm around my shoulders and gently patted my back. "I knew this would hurt if I told you." The overwhelming disappointment I felt towards Skylar, combined with the guilt I felt for not understanding my friend's concerns all these years, crashed over me like a giant wave. For many days, I drifted in that suffocating feeling. I could clearly tell Judy was doing everything she could to cheer me up, but I couldn't remember how to smile anymore. Chapter 6. In the middle of the night on August 10th, Judy suddenly sat upright in bed without any warning. "Let's go climb a mountain." We changed into hiking gear, packed our backpacks, and set off. Along the way, we wanted to give up countless times. Every time we passed someone coming down the mountain, she would ask, "How much farther?" And every time, they would smile and answer, "Almost there." Neither of us had any experience, so we didn't understand the true meaning behind that almost. We figured that if it was almost there, then we could endure a little longer. By the time we kept going, sweat had completely soaked through our hats. The two of us sat on the stone steps and cried. Judy sniffled loudly and asked in a muffled voice, "Should we just give up?" Stubbornness got the better of me. "No, we've already come this far. How many times in a lifetime do people get to have an experience like this?" I couldn't bear to abandon everything we had already accomplished. Because of that one sentence, we stopped and started countless times, eating, drinking, resting, and even climbing with both hands and feet before finally reaching the summit. I don't know how long we sat there back to back. Eventually, the sunrise arrived. The warm-colored light chased away the chill of the night. It felt so comforting that it sent shivers through my body. Judy suddenly shouted at the top of her lungs. Luviana, we're going to be best friends forever. She didn't offer comforting words. She didn't give me any grand speeches. Yet somehow, that single sentence shattered the jar that had trapped me for so long and finally allowed me to breathe again. I hugged her and cried silently. A breakup feels like recovering from a serious illness. Fortunately, during the time I was sick, someone stayed by my side. She taught me that giving up is a choice. Persevering is also a choice. The mountaintop has its own scenery, and giving up has its own regrets. Back at the hotel, Judy and I clinked glasses. When you're depressed, it's easy to get trapped in a dead end and never find your way out. But once you're not depressed anymore, you can't even understand why you were so upset in the first place. I can't even fully relate to my own past feelings. Yet I spent so much time trying to understand Skylar and inventing endless excuses for why he avoided things. Judy was a wonderful listener. She didn't join me in criticizing Skylar. She simply said, "You were just in love with him. That's not some terrible flaw." When I was completely crazy about my husband, if he made mistakes, I'd unconsciously overlook them too. So this is what people are like when they genuinely love someone. So what I experienced was simply human nature. I raised my glass toward myself, to letting myself go, to making peace with myself. Judy insisted on clinking glasses with me. To my best friend, I hope we both have wonderful futures. The rest of the trip was filled with happiness. We joined a water festival, rode bicycles along the coastline, went skydiving, fished out at sea, and experienced countless things we had never done before. On the day I returned home, I didn't notice until after landing that Skylar had called me many times. It sounded as though he had been waiting by his phone the entire time. "Have you landed? I'll come pick you up." I didn't answer the question. Instead, I started telling him about the things we had done during the trip. Then I summed it up. Some activities I don't particularly enjoy aren't actually unpleasant when I do them with someone I care about. I remember telling you that I wanted to go night cycling with you, but you refused because you said I didn't have the stamina. You also said you didn't want me doing things I disliked. You seemed to want to bring me into your world, yet at the same time you resisted letting me get close to it. Why? There was a click. To my surprise, he hung up. I never got my answer. Dragging my suitcase behind me, I returned to the apartment I had rented separately. It was far from downtown. Outside the window stood tall trees. The wind stirred the curtains and carried a sense of peace into the room. I hadn't left the city. After all, many of my valuable professional contacts were still here. And besides, I didn't dislike this place at all. Chapter 7. The next morning, Skylar called again. His exhausted voice came through the phone. "Why didn't you come home? No matter what happens, just come back first, okay? Don't make me worry." I turned on speakerphone and sat in the sunlight, holding a cup of tea. "I thought you understood what I meant. I don't want to go back." For a long time, there was no response from his end. Then suddenly, I heard hurried footsteps filled with agitation, followed by the sound of a door being thrown open. His voice became urgent. "Luviana, where are the gifts from the cabinet? Why can't I find them anywhere? I've searched the whole house. They're not in the storage room either. Did you move them because the house was too crowded?" I wiped away tears that had appeared without me noticing. "I threw them away," Skylar demanded. "Why would you throw them away without asking me first?" My grip tightened around the cup. "They were gifts to me, which means they belonged to me, and now I don't want them anymore." He took a deep breath. "So you're breaking up with me, is that it?" The world seemed to fall silent. Neither of us spoke. The words we had both been afraid to say, the words neither of us wanted to say, finally burst out all at once. Neither of us felt any relief. In the long silence, only occasional static drifted through the phone. It was as if even our breathing had disappeared. I was the first to recover. Gathering my courage, I said firmly, "Let's break up." This time, I chose to hang up first, because ending an engagement doesn't require anyone else's permission. That night, I couldn't sleep. Maybe it was because I wasn't used to the bed. I kept tossing and turning, remembering the countless photos we had taken together. I always transferred them onto an external hard drive and organized them into folders by date. Since I couldn't sleep anyway, I opened my laptop and connected the drive. Looking through all those intimate moments from the past filled me with complicated emotions. Sometimes I couldn't help laughing. Then the next second, sadness would wash over me. After sitting in silence for a long time, I moved the cursor and selected folder after folder. Less than a minute later, every photo was gone. In that instant, it felt as though a piece of my heart had been cut away. Yet alongside the emptiness came relief. A strange sense of release kept me from crying. As I let go, the pressure inside me gradually eased. For the first time in a long while, I stopped hovering between hesitation and uncertainty. The anxiety that had plagued me disappeared. In its place came a peaceful night's sleep. After leaving him, I threw myself into work. My days became busy and fulfilling. For brief periods, I even forgot he existed, which was why I went to meet one of his co-workers to discuss event details without any guard up. The moment she pushed open the doors to the venue, bang, 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 a series of loud explosions rang out. I flinched in shock. Only after looking carefully did I realize they were confetti cannons. She linked her arm through mine and led me forward. Then she gently pushed me ahead. Along the path, familiar faces handed me roses one after another. Everyone looked excited and enthusiastic. It was as if nobody noticed how terrible my expression was. Perhaps they thought I was simply stunned. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, Skylar appeared, wearing a bright smile. He grabbed my hand and began leading me forward. His grip was tight. No matter how much I secretly tried to pull away, he refused to let go. His voice was rough and dry as he said, "No matter what happens, could you at least watch until the end before you leave?" Chapter 8. At the center of the venue, a video was playing. It was a collection of memories from our past. The footage showed the first time I cooked after we moved in together. Back then, Skylar had excitedly insisted on recording the moment, saying he wanted to preserve the memory. Throughout the video, no matter what I asked him to do, he responded enthusiastically. Even when he didn't know how to do something, he would ask me for instructions. He was attentive in a way that seemed like every woman's ideal partner. My eyes in the video were filled with happiness. It had been the period when my desire to share everything with him was at its strongest. Every dish I made, I wanted him to taste. I constantly asked him what flavors he liked. And every time, he answered with the same response: "It's delicious." I wasn't satisfied. "Why won't you ever give me any real feedback? How am I supposed to know what kind of food you actually like?" The shaky camera footage carried all the sweetness we once shared. It turned out the problem had existed from the very beginning. I wasn't the only one who had blurred the details of the past. After years together, he had also forgotten the tolerance and patience he once had. The trivial routines of daily life and the changes we both went through had buried the passion we once shared. When we were in love, we truly had been perfect for each other. Skylar dropped to one knee. "Luviana, will you marry me?" It should have been a romantic moment. A moment where two people gazed at each other with love. Instead, he was gripping my hand so tightly that the scene felt almost absurd. I didn't want to become the judge sentencing him. Forcing a smile, I said, "This is too sudden. Can I give you an answer later?" Once upon a time, he had sincerely accepted me. He had guided me and supported me. That was why I had shown him my true self without any defenses. Even though we had grown increasingly distant, and even though there were times when I truly disliked him, I still couldn't bring myself to hurt him in return. The passion he felt now was nothing more than panic. He had realized we were about to become strangers, so he kept revisiting old memories and suddenly rediscovered his affection for me. But feelings like that don't last very long. I didn't want a future built on reluctant compromises. The carefully arranged atmosphere around us only made the tragedy of our predictable ending more obvious. I put down the bouquet and stood up to leave. Skylar immediately grabbed my arm and desperately tried to stop me. "I'm sorry. I can tell you everything. Back then, I really was afraid of marriage. I couldn't imagine a life where two people were permanently tied together, where everything one person did affected the other. But if I ever get married, the only person I want to marry is you." The crowd was completely confused by what was happening, but that didn't stop them from speaking up for the Skylar they knew. One of his closest friends spoke first. "What's there to hesitate about? You two are practically a married couple already." Others quickly joined in. Exactly. Don't ruin the mood. Skylar spent a long time preparing this. He's completely sincere. If you miss this proposal, he'll have to go through all the trouble of proposing again. One female coworker jokingly tried to ease the tension. Come on, stop pressuring her. Maybe Luviana's just putting on a little act and wants to make all of us nervous. No one knew who started it, but soon everyone was chanting the same thing. Say yes! Say yes! Say yes! I stopped trying to leave, noticing that I was no longer struggling. Skylar immediately dropped to one knee again. His face lit up with hope. He opened the ring box and carefully took out the ring. The crowd fell silent. Their eyes shone with excitement and anticipation, more intense than some people probably felt at their own weddings. I looked at the ring, then smiled casually. Haven't you already gotten used to being alone? Habits are difficult to change. I was so accustomed to viewing things from his perspective that I instinctively tried not to embarrass him. But not a single person in that room had stopped to wonder why I was resisting. Skylar's face instantly turned pale. Did Judy say something to you? You're overthinking things again. Why was he blaming Judy? Disappointment washed over me once more. This has nothing to do with her. It's because you found me annoying. That's why you pretended to be on business trips while secretly staying in hotels. Isn't it? I thought you were afraid of marriage. I didn't expose you because I didn't want to hurt your pride. And I didn't want to destroy what we had. So I gave you an entire year to work through it. But then I found out you rented an apartment near your company. There were 37 gifts on that cabinet. Every time you went on one of your so-called business trips, I threw one away. Sometimes the trips lasted a few days. Sometimes they lasted over 10. In 1 year, you went on 37 business trips. Think about that. Does that sound reasonable to you? You took advantage of the fact that I trusted you. You lied without a second thought. And while listening to me worry about your health, it must have felt pretty satisfying, didn't it? Chapter 9. Skylar clenched the ring tightly and stood up. So you've known all along. I can explain that too. Back then, everyone was pressuring me to get married. I felt like I had a noose around my neck. And since you knew everything, you also know I never cheated on you. The irritation rising in his eyes was impossible to miss. As if he thought I was making a big deal out of nothing. As if I had been the one controlling him. For the first time, I stopped worrying about preserving his dignity. I repeated his own words back to him. I really don't want to go home. Work is exhausting enough already. Then I get home and have to help her wash vegetables and sit through conversations I'm not interested in. I have to constantly worry about whether I'm being attentive enough so I don't hurt her feelings. It's exhausting being the perfect boyfriend. Even buying something I like makes me worry she'll ask how much it cost. As if buying something expensive is some kind of crime. She wants me involved in everything. But honestly, I don't want to go on walks with her. She keeps saying that once we own a house, she definitely wants to get a cat. But I prefer dogs. And she happens to be afraid of them. And honestly, the food she cooks is way too bland. Our tastes don't match at all. I'm finally getting a chance to relax. So don't ruin the mood. Cruel words have a way of lingering forever. A year ago, outside that hotel, every complaint he made to his friend had etched itself into my memory. I finally snapped. Who the hell asked you to pretend to be the perfect boyfriend? The room fell silent. Skylar couldn't say another word. I turned to look at his friends. So what exactly have you been saying about me all this time? What kind of stories did you tell them to make them dislike me so much? His best friend's eyes darted away. He couldn't meet my gaze. Skylar remained silent. Once again, I received no answer. But by then, I no longer cared. After that day, we never contacted each other again. Until 6 months later, we ran into each other at a restaurant. I didn't even notice him at first. It was Judy who nudged my arm and whispered, "Skylar's at that table diagonally across from us." I didn't even look up. Don't make a scene. I don't want to embarrass myself. Judy grinned mischievously, but a second later, the smile vanished. 6 months already, and you're still not dating anyone new? When I first said I wanted to pursue Luviana, you insisted you liked her type too. If I'd known you'd get this hung up over her, I wouldn't have stepped aside. You have to move on eventually. No point acting like your life is over because of one woman. You never should have proposed in the first place. Jean, you and the others have been making fun of you for 6 months. Throughout the entire conversation, Skylar said nothing. He simply sat there while his friend talked about me with open disrespect. Judy slammed down her chopsticks. "I'm done eating. That's disgusting." Her voice wasn't quiet. Skylar and his friends immediately looked over. The moment they recognized us, his friend blurted out, "Damn, should have checked my luck before leaving the house." I didn't react at all. I continued eating at the same unhurried pace. Influenced by my indifference, Judy gradually ignored them too. Eventually, they left before we did. I thought that would be the end of it. Then I ran into Skylar again in the parking garage. He was waiting there. The moment I saw him, I knew he wanted to talk. Stubbornness had always been part of his nature. I sent Judy, who was already 5 months pregnant, to wait in the car. She grumbled unhappily. If I'd brought my husband, I'd have my big guy sit on them and squash them flat. I coaxed her for a while before she finally agreed to leave. Only then did Skylar approach. With a self-deprecating smile, he said, "I want to explain why I never wanted you getting too close to my friends." I smiled pleasantly. My words, however, were anything but polite. "Because your friends are trash, and you were afraid that if I spent enough time around them, I'd realize you're trash too." He laughed helplessly. "I didn't know you were still this angry." That's a pretty extreme way of looking at it. Men are basically all the same. We grow up in different environments from women. The way we talk among ourselves is naturally less restrained. He was looking out for me. He never actually meant to insult you. In fact, he was one of the people telling me not to ruin my relationship. When I remained silent, he continued, "Whether it's men or women, everyone puts on a somewhat fake version of themselves when they're trying to attract someone." I let out a mocking laugh. "It's not fake. It's fear." Seeing the dismissive expression on his face, I continued, "You're afraid the other person won't choose you, so you instinctively try to improve yourself. You want to show them the best version of who you can be. Some people find fulfillment in love. They become gentler, kinder, and more patient because they're happy. But some people only ever see themselves. Their eyes and hearts are filled with nothing but their own needs. And because of that, they never feel fulfilled at all." Chapter 10. My father was supposedly a troublemaker when he was young, but after getting married and having children, he gradually became more responsible and dependable. The main reason wasn't marriage, and it wasn't because my mother demanded it. It was because the increasingly happy life he built made him feel that he could become a better version of himself. Obviously, you're not that kind of person, so don't ask whether I have a boyfriend now, and don't ask whether we can still be friends, because we really aren't compatible. If we run into each other in the future, let's just pretend we don't know each other. I had no patience left for continuing the conversation, so I shut down every possible opening before he could pursue it further. The future is long. If I compare this relationship to a sunk cost, then leaving him only costs me the years I've already spent. But ahead of me lies an endless number of possibilities. If I continued entangling myself with him, that would be gambling away my entire life. And when I grew old, I would regret it countless times. I'm glad I didn't walk away empty-handed. I learned how to give myself the courage to start over.